Naoya Inoue, known across the boxing world as the Monster, has built a reputation unlike any other active fighter. With his flawless record, devastating power, and unmatched ring IQ, he has humbled former champions, destroyed confident challengers, and earned the respect of legends around the globe. Even Floyd Mayweather has acknowledged Inoue as one of the most technically brilliant fighters of this generation. But what truly defines Inoue's legacy are not just his victories, it is the manner in which he delivers them. When someone disrespects him, doubts him, or tries to downplay his skill, Inoue responds with a level of violence, precision, and control that leaves the world stunned. This is the story of the knockouts, humiliations, and career-defining moments that transformed Naoya Inoue into the global face of boxing. One of the most anticipated matchups came when Inoue faced Stephen Fulton, a highly skilled and undefeated champion known for his slick movement, sharp jab, and defensive mastery. Fulton entered the fight confident, even dismissive, claiming the hype around Inoue existed only because he was a Japanese superstar fighting in smaller weight classes. Fulton suggested that he had fought opponents like Inoue before and would expose weaknesses others had overlooked. However, Fulton had no idea what kind of storm he was walking into. When they met inside Ariake Arena, the Japanese crowd roared for their national hero. Inoue, calm as always, walked into the center of the ring like a surgeon preparing for delicate but decisive work. The opening round showed exactly why Inoue is considered a special talent. Fulton tried to use his superior reach, footwork, and jab to keep Inoue at bay. But every time he attempted to find a rhythm, Inoue interrupted it with laser-sharp jabs to the body and hooks around the guard. What shocked Fulton most wasn't the power, it was the speed. Inoue's movements were small, efficient, and precise, allowing him to slide just out of range and counter with perfect timing. The commentators pointed out that Fulton, known for having one of the best jabs in the division, was suddenly being beaten at his own specialty. Inoue was controlling the pace without rushing, patiently dissecting Fulton piece by piece. By the end of the second round, Fulton's confident expression had shifted into uncertainty. Inoue had already landed over 100 punches, while Fulton was still searching for openings. As the rounds progressed, Fulton's plan began to crumble. He attempted to use feints, bounce on his toes, and shift angles to break Inoue's timing, but nothing worked. Inoue kept cutting off the ring with subtle footwork and forcing Fulton into exchanges he didn't want. When Fulton stood his ground, Inoue punished him. When he moved backward, Inoue trapped him against the ropes. Inoue's jab was snapping Fulton's head back, and the first sign of real damage appeared when a sharp Inoue jab hit Fulton's nose, instantly producing blood. From that moment forward, Fulton realized he couldn't trade with the Monster. By round 6, the numbers told the story clearly. Fulton, a normally active fighter, had thrown less than 200 punches, while Inoue had thrown more than 300. Fulton was stuck between two fears, the fear of being countered and the fear of being overwhelmed. Every time he threw a punch, Inoue answered with combinations. Every time he paused, Inoue stepped in with more pressure. Even when Fulton landed a rare clean shot, Inoue reset immediately and returned fire with twice the accuracy. Inoue was not only winning the fight, he was breaking the spirit of a world champion. Then came round 8. Inoue, fully locked in, unleashed the moment that shook the boxing world. He slipped a jab, stepped forward, and fired a devastating right hand that exploded across Fulton's jaw. Fulton collapsed instantly, eyes wide, legs gone, stunned by the power he had once mocked. He struggled but managed to rise to his feet before the count ended. But the fight was already over in spirit. Inoue charged forward with a violent flurry, mixing headshots and body shots with perfect accuracy. Fulton tried to defend but was overwhelmed within seconds. A crushing combination sent him back to the canvas, and the referee waved off the fight. The Japanese crowd erupted. The Monster had claimed 2 more belts and silenced one of his loudest critics. But Fulton wasn't the only confident opponent who learned the hard way. Before him came Antonio Nieves, a tough, durable fighter known for his stamina and ability to take fights deep into later rounds. Nieves believed Inoue was too hyped, too protected, and too comfortable fighting at home. He said the pressure was on Inoue, not him. He said Inoue wasn't used to facing real endurance fighters. He said he would drag Inoue into deep water. Instead, Nieves almost drowned in the first 2 rounds. Inoue used his jab like a weapon, snapping Nieves' head back over and over. Nieves tried to answer with counters, landing a few shots that made Inoue tighten his guard. But Inoue simply adjusted, then punished him even harder. Inoue's bodywork became the turning point. His left hook to the ribs began folding Nieves in half. The sound echoed throughout the arena, a deep, thudding crack that shook Nieves' posture every time it landed. Nieves tried moving, tried clinching, tried staying long, but nothing worked. Inoue stalked him with cold focus, looking for an opening to end the fight. By round 3, Nieves looked like a man fighting a ghost, unable to predict where the next strike would come from. Inoue let his hands go in the final seconds of the round, hammering Nieves with punches that made the commentators beg for the corner to step in. By round 4, Nieves was visibly worn down. Inoue played with him, switching angles, throwing feints, and landing hard hooks to the liver. The pain became so overwhelming that Nieves' corner threw in the towel, unwilling to let their fighter take another second of punishment. Inoue had once again silenced doubt with violence. But one of the most historic moments of Inoue's career came when he faced Paul Butler. Butler was no ordinary opponent. He was the WBO bantamweight world champion and a highly skilled fighter with elite footwork and sharp counters. Butler had survived wars and was known for his toughness. Inoue himself understood the threat, and from the opening bell, he treated Butler with respect while systematically breaking him down. Inoue went to the body early, using jabs and right hands to sap Butler's movement. Butler attempted to remain defensive, protecting his chin, but that only opened his ribs for more punishment. Inoue's combinations were ruthless. Double jabs, right hands, uppercuts, and hooks came from all angles. Even when Butler kept his guard tight, the punches still moved his entire body. By the middle rounds, Butler realized he was not fighting a normal man. He was being overwhelmed by speed, timing, power, and creativity. Inoue taunted him at moments, dropping his hands, nodding his head, and even inviting Butler to fight back. The crowd loved the showmanship, and Butler tried responding with counters, but Inoue was too sharp. He slipped everything and returned fire with combinations that bounced Butler's head around like a drum. The longer the fight went, the more obvious it became that Inoue was simply choosing when to end it, and in round 11, he finally decided. Inoue delivered a savage combination ending with a monstrous right hand that sent Butler collapsing to the canvas. The fight was instantly called off, and the arena erupted as Inoue officially became the first fighter in history to hold all 4 major bantamweight belts at once. It was a historic moment, one that cemented Naoya Inoue as the face of modern boxing. After Naoya Inoue dismantled Paul Butler to become the first undisputed bantamweight champion of the 4-belt era, the boxing world erupted with praise, respect, and even fear. The monster had officially taken his place among the sport's greatest champions. But what many people don't understand is how Inoue built that level of dominance. Through a long pattern of breaking fighters mentally, physically, and emotionally, long before the knockout blow ever landed. And one of the clearest examples of this came years earlier, when Inoue humiliated Jamie McDonnell, a fighter who entered their matchup with overwhelming confidence. McDonnell was the undefeated WBA bantamweight champion, a man who had not tasted defeat in a decade. He had the height, reach, and supposed size advantage. He believed Inoue was too small for him, too untested, too limited at the elite level. McDonnell dismissed Inoue's power entirely, saying that Japanese opponents were not on his level and that Inoue would crumble the moment he felt a real world champion's punch. Instead, within 90 seconds of the opening round, McDonnell's entire career came crashing down. When the fight began, McDonnell tried using his jab to control the distance, hoping to force Inoue backward, but the monster refused to move. He cut off the ring instantly and punished McDonnell with a vicious right hand to the body that made him wince. McDonnell attempted to hide the pain, but Inoue saw everything. Seconds later, Inoue launched a right hand to the head that rocked McDonnell badly. The champion staggered backward, surprised by the power he never believed existed. Inoue pressed forward with cold precision, landing a clean hook that sent McDonnell tumbling to the canvas. McDonnell got up, but he was clearly finished. Inoue smelled blood and unleashed a rapid series of punches that left the champion helpless against the ropes. The referee jumped in to save him, and just like that, the fight was over. McDonnell wasn't just beaten, he was erased. One round, one statement, one knockout that announced Inoue as a terrifying new force in boxing. Even McDonnell admitted afterward that he had underestimated the monster. That became a pattern. Another fight that showcased Inoue's terrifying evolution came when he met Emmanuel Rodriguez, a fighter who was supposed to be his most dangerous test yet. Rodriguez was undefeated, technical, fast, and confident. He had beaten top contenders and believed Inoue's power was overrated. For the first time in years, fans wondered if Inoue might finally be challenged by a fighter who had both the skill and the toughness to push him. What happened instead became one of the most shocking performances in the history of the bantamweight division. The first round was competitive. Rodriguez boxed beautifully behind his jab, creating angles and showing why so many people believed he could trouble Inoue. He landed counters that snapped Inoue's head back, and for a brief moment, Rodriguez believed he could control the pace. But Inoue was merely downloading data, observing, learning, measuring. By the start of the second round, Inoue had all the information he needed. What followed was destruction. Inoue opened round 2 by slipping a jab and smashing Rodriguez with a clean right hand that shook the champion's body. The punch landed so hard that Rodriguez's eyes widened instantly. He knew he was in danger. Inoue followed with a savage left hook to the ribs that folded Rodriguez in half. The champion dropped to the canvas, gasping for breath. He stumbled up, barely able to stand. The fight could have ended right there. But Inoue wasn't finished. Moments later, he delivered another brutal body shot, dropping Rodriguez again. The referee looked concerned, but Rodriguez insisted on continuing. That decision only prolonged his suffering. Inoue crushed him with a third devastating left hook to the body. Rodriguez collapsed once more. The referee waved off the fight. Inoue had stopped an undefeated world champion in 2 rounds. And he didn't just beat him, he dismantled him in one of the most brutal body shot destructions the sport had ever seen. But perhaps the most important fight of Inoue's rise came against Donaire, one of the greatest lower weight fighters of all time. Their first fight in 2019 became an instant classic, a brutal, emotional war that tested Inoue in ways no opponent ever had. Donaire hurt him, cut him, and pushed him to his absolute limits. Inoue suffered a broken orbital bone and fought through intense pain. Yet even in that adversity, Inoue fought back with heart, precision, and unbreakable determination. His legendary left hook to the liver dropped Donaire in round 11, a moment that became one of the most iconic highlights of his career. Inoue won a unanimous decision in what many fans believe was the fight of the year. But the rematch was different. In 2022, Inoue came in with a cold mission to leave no doubt, to finish the veteran legend, to show the world that he had evolved. From the opening bell, Inoue dominated the rematch in a way that left fans speechless. He was faster, sharper, and more explosive than ever before. In the first 90 seconds, he cracked Donaire with a lightning-fast right hand that sent him crashing to the canvas. Donaire got up, but his legs were gone. Inoue swarmed him with combinations that ripped through the guard. Every punch shook the Filipino legend. Every exchange went Inoue's way. The referee watched carefully as Donaire struggled to survive. Then came the finishing blow, a brutal right hand that ended the fight in round 2. The monster had dismantled a living legend in less than 6 minutes. Donaire later admitted Inoue was the strongest fighter he had ever faced in his entire career. These knockouts, these humblings, these violent statements, they are what transformed Naoya Inoue into the global face of boxing. He never trash talks. He never shows ego. He never tries to intimidate opponents at weigh-ins. Instead, he enters the ring with quiet confidence, studies his opponents like a scientist, and then breaks them down like a weapon. He moves like a mathematician and punches like a wrecking ball. The combination is terrifying. Whether he is fighting undefeated champions, legends, pressure fighters, slick boxers, or heavy hitters, Inoue adapts instantly and dominates consistently. In every weight class he enters, he becomes the most feared fighter. And with every historic knockout, the world is reminded that Naoya Inoue is not simply a champion. He is an era-defining talent, a once-in-a-generation fighter, and the living embodiment of his nickname, the Monster.